Researchers with the Capital One Insight Center have determined a fourth round of stimulus payments would be critical to lower earners. The study began in the spring of 2020 and was conducted through a series of surveys to what researchers call a nationally representative group of Americans. One goal was to discover how they use their stimulus checks. The results showed lower earners were much more likely than other groups to have spent the federal checks on bills.
There are 3 deposit dates that have been released. State officials have confirmed that this week 3 new rounds of stimulus will be available and sent out to eligible Americans. And now, as relief has already been approved for so many people, there are 3 states that are stepping in financially to help their residents this month.
I have terrible news.
There are 3 states that are stepping in financially to help the residents this month and in November, and as well as the next months coming up. State surplus budgets have been funneled new stimulus payments or inflation-related checks into providing financial aid to state residents. California, Hawaii, and Virginia are following the footsteps of Colorado, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, and many other states that are sending out state stimulus payments. California's middle-class tax refund will be a one-time payment automatically sent between October and January of next year to eligible people. The middle-class tax refund debit cards will be mailed between October 25th and December 10th. An estimated 10 and 90% of direct deposits will be issued in October, and 95% of all refunds will be issued by the end of the year. Couples with an adjusted gross income of up to $150,000 or less are eligible to receive up to $1,000, while single filers can even expect to receive up to $700 based on their income. The Act 115 refund in Hawaii gives a one-time payment for qualifying taxpayers. Single filers with income under $100,000 will be eligible for $300, and lowering to $100 for single filers who earn $100,000 or more. Married couples with a joint filing reporting under $200,000 of income will be eligible for $300. And refunds started to be issued in September, are expected to go in through November, and will be based on the order in which individual income tax returns were filed in 2021. Also expected for those who had tax liability in this year, Virginia will issue a $250 one-time tax rebate for single filers or $500 for joint filers. Eligible residents can also expect to get some payments up until the end of the month as they file their taxes. Recipients will still receive checks via direct deposit or in the mail. A recent survey has also showed that inflation is making it even harder for people to put money away for retirement. More than half of 54% of adults said they had stopped saving for retirement or reduced their contribution because of inflation. More than a quarter also reported having to dip into their retirement savings to keep pace with everyday expenses. And to be sure, Americans have struggled to set money aside, long before ongoing about inflation. Research published in 2019 found that nearly half of families had exactly nothing saved for retirement. Research also showed that the average balance in the United States retirement account is less than $87,000. In stark contrast to that meager amount, Americans expect to need a savings of at least $1 million to be comfortable in retirement. Now, people are feeling a financial crunch at the moment. It's a hard environment to save in, and many families have seen losses in their investment and economic portfolios. Inflation and other factors are also escalating what people estimate that they'll need to retire comfortably. So we're seeing people push out the age at which they expect to retire, and more saying that they're not so sure they'll be ready when the time comes. Only a quarter of retirees are generating enough income to replace 7 out of every $10 in pre-retirement income. And also about half retirees are living on less than half the pre-retirement income, with those older Americans particularly vulnerable to inflation and other economic trends. The U.S. economy grew at 2.6% from an annual rate from July to December, a strong rebound from the nation's economic GDP, and the resurgence comes as consumers and businesses are grappling with inflation and as rising interest rates rapidly cool the housing markets.
We start today with a flurry of activity on Capitol Hill. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell is there. Leanne, let's start with COVID relief. The Senate bill will now cut off direct payments at $80,000 for individual filers, $160,000 for couples. What else do we need to know about this deal and how this is going over with progressives?
Yeah, hey, Allison. So this was an attempt to appease moderates who had concerns about the direct stimulus payments and other parts of the legislation. They wanted it more targeted, not to benefit really so many people, they say, who don't necessarily need these direct stimulus checks. So what they are going to do, the same number of people you're still going to get a full stimulus check like you did last time if you made up to $150,000 per couple, $75,000 per person, but it's going to cap out much, much sooner. And so that is where the change comes in. And so fewer people are going to get stimulus checks at that higher income.
Let's go over the most important stimulus news. A letter from the IRS is coming, and it's telling you if you're eligible to receive, and it's talking about the $1,400 stimulus payments. Many of you are actually waiting for your $1,400 third stimulus check to arrive. Well, it is likely you will have to file taxes in order to receive your missing stimulus relief money. The recovery rebate credit is available to anybody that did not receive their third stimulus check, or if they received less than the correct amount. It is important to remember that in order to claim the recovery rebate credit, individuals must file a 2021 tax return to claim the remaining stimulus money.
For Regine, I want to say that because of the infrastructure bill, a few weeks ago we had an event, our Safe Streets initiative for San Francisco, so that it be safer for children and families.
The money you could receive will either be in the form of a refund or tax reduction. The letter is expected to be arriving in mailboxes by the end of January, with 36 million households expected to receive it. And I know many of you are wondering why it is important to file taxes if you're missing stimulus money. According to CNET, the IRS will now record your stimulus check from 2021 in your tax return. This could lead to a review of your filing, which would inevitably lead to a delay in getting the stimulus back. And also, everybody, if you are a senior, then make sure to continue watching this. So today, CNBC reported that a public health emergency could actually cost millions of people to lose Medicaid coverage. The bad news is that up to 15 million people are at risk of losing Medicaid. Across the country, people are preparing for this. But the analysis have announced that many people are likely to be eligible for other forms of coverage. But there is a concern that few people will know that they are in danger of losing Medicaid and are eligible for other types of health insurance. There have been few attempts to communicate this to those who are affected, but not every state is approaching it the same way. So, as of now, states are required to keep people on the Medicaid payrolls during the public health emergency unless they move out of the state or ask to be removed. So when the public health emergency ends, states will have 12 months to go through enrollment and determine everybody's eligibility status. Now, we all know how Democrats spent much of January on the voting rights legislation. Now, with On Devour now in shambles, they're refocusing their attention to the Build Back Better bill. So President Biden can get this done. So hopefully President Biden can get this done, everybody. If you think he can, tell me in the comments down below, and I'll do my very best in answering all of your questions.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. There's a saying that those that preceded me have said everything that needs to be said. So I'm not going to put the microphone down yet, though. Ivar, thank you for your superb leadership. To the building trades, to all the stakeholders, the workers, the contractors, the pilots, as Congresswoman Spears so ably listed out, the honor roll of